there, Greg Conkey. Thanks for joining us. First up, why an electric car? Why would the Wagga City Council spend more than $50,000 on an electric car?
Well, the idea is to trial it. This car was designed to be purchased for use around the city only. Was never designed to go long distances. So it's part of the city's power partnership. We're part of that partnership. It involves over 300 towns and cities throughout Australia. And as part of that partnership, they're committed to a sustainable, non-polluting energy future. And they have, we've signed up to that 2 years ago, so all councillors agreed to that. And then just 12 months ago, we adopted their 5 actions. And one of those actions is to trial and to purchase an electric vehicle. And that's what we've done. The other actions are to install solar panels, and to install LED lights, to have additional fast charging stations, and to encourage community organisations to also adopt energy saving measures.
None of this, of course, is going to make a speck of difference when it comes to emissions in this country or even in Wagga. It's just a bit of expensive virtue signalling on climate, isn't it? Did ratepayers get a chance to vote on any of this?
Well, it's we're trying to reduce the charges for ratepayers. We're trying to save money and to reduce our energy. It costs us something like $3.5 million now for electricity. Our LED lights, our street lighting, is costing us $1.5 million.
Yeah, but this car's going to draw more from the electricity. This car costs probably twice what a petrol car would have cost, and it's going to add to your electricity bill. Well,
if we're using solar energy, it won't add to our electricity bill at all. So, but look, it needs. We're showing initiative. There's a 70% saving. It's cheaper to run than a conventional vehicle, and there's something like a $1,500 saving per year. So that's a saving to the ratepayers of this city. So it's an initiative, showing foresight for the residents of this city, and hopefully we'll be able to share that knowledge with other local government bodies throughout New South Wales. But you're right, as far as we have huge distances to travel in this country. And this vehicle was never meant to travel to Sydney. It was always meant to drive around the city. We'll evaluate it, and hopefully it'll be proved to be the way for the future.
Nonetheless, some of your councillors have passed a motion forcing you to drive the vehicle to Sydney. When are you going to give it a go?
Can I correct that? The motion was requesting the Mayor to do it. So they're not forcing me to travel to Sydney in this vehicle. They've requested that I do it, and I'm happy to do that. So hopefully in the next month or so, there'll be an opportunity to drive this vehicle to a business function in Sydney. So I'm looking forward to that. It'll be a lot longer than a conventional vehicle. It'll probably take me an extra hour, an hour and a half to do that. There's a number of fast charging stations along the way, so I'll look forward to that journey.
So it normally takes, what, about 4.5 hours to drive to Sydney. Where are the fast charging stations? Have you planned out the trip yet?
Yes, we've looked at those fast charging stations. It's a 4.5 hour non-stop trip, so it normally takes me about 5.5 hours with a couple of stops along the way. There's a fast charging station 140 k's north of the city of Jugeong. There's charging stations, I understand, at Yass. There's a fast charging station at Goulburn, and there's one, I believe, in the Southern Highlands. So there's certainly enough charging stations along the way to get to Sydney and to return.
So how long do you reckon it'll take you?
Well, as I said, it's 5.5 hours if I travel now, so I'm looking at about 6.5 hours, maybe. But look, it may be that we can get to Goulburn and charge it at Goulburn, so it may be the same time.
Well, it'd be a 4.5 hour drive ordinarily. So you.
I don't do it in 4.5 hours. It's 450 kilometres, so it's a fair way, and you can't. Well, I don't like to do it in one hop. I like to have a couple of stops along the way.
Yep. Likewise, when I do that trip, any chance we could come along, have a look, and film the journey when you do this?
Not quite sure when it's going to happen. So it may be, look, I was in Sydney a couple of days ago, and it's certainly, I would have had to leave at 3 o'clock with a conventional vehicle to get to Sydney for my meeting on time, and I had to get back for a function last night. So I generally fly to Sydney, so it's just not convenient to take a vehicle for most of my trips, but we'll organise a trip at some stage. I'm not quite sure when, but look, as I said, this vehicle was never meant to be driven outside the city
as
of
you
Wagga.
mentioned. Thanks, Mayor Conkey. We'll try and keep in touch with you because we'd love to follow this journey and see how it goes. Just on the same theme, though, your council has passed a motion, like many councils, declaring a climate emergency.
Look, that was passed, and then it was rescinded, and so the motion that is now before council is that we'll go back to the community in the next 12 to 18 months under our community strategic plan, and we'll tell the community what we have done as far as reducing our emissions in this city, what we are planning to do as far as reducing our emissions, and that's through LED lights, etc. And then going back to the community and saying, okay, what else would you like us to do? Bearing in mind that some of the actions that may be suggested will cost some money. So that's what we've done. We're going back to the community to get the community to give us some feedback as to the way forward.
You're hardly going to save the planet. Wouldn't it be better just to cut down on your own costs, cut down on your own expenditure, reduce rates for your ratepayers, and perhaps plant more trees?
But Chris, that's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what we're doing. We're reducing our emissions. As I mentioned, it's $3.5 million for our power costs now. And by LED lights, we can drastically reduce that. We're putting LED lights in our various civic buildings. We're putting solar panels on top of our buildings. So we're doing that. But what else can we do, and what else is the community looking forward to for us to do? What feedback are we going to get from the community to do it?
What about overseas travel? I understand you travelled to Germany as part of a sister city arrangement. How about you scrap such trips? Because that'll save a lot of money and a lot of emissions.
Well, it's unfortunately the policy at the moment says that the mayor, on rare occasions when the mayor goes overseas, and we do have a sister city relationship with a very fine city in Germany, as well as one in the United States and one in China. Part of our policy is that the mayor goes economy class, cattle class. So
this was your great sacrifice, as you went to Germany economy class. That was your sacrifice to save the planet.
What I'm saying to you, Chris, is that there's a policy that it funds an economy class return air trip, and result of some of the comments by some of the councillors, we now I'll put up a motion that for future trips, and not only just overseas, which are rare, but also within Australia, that we look at carbon reductions, so carbon some credits to purchase to offset those overseas trips.
Pay some offsets, to justify it. What about just have a chat like we are over Skype? Instead of going to Germany or instead of going to Sydney or Melbourne, you could just Skype people and save lots of emissions.
Well, it's building international relationships and goodwill. A number of people from Germany have come to our city over the years. I've been fortunate to be able to host 50 or 60 choir members as well as band members. So it's an international exchange. It's been going on for 50 years. So it's a great initiative, this sister city, and so we look forward to hosting these visitors over the years, and they look forward to hosting us over there.
Thanks for joining us, Mayor Conkey, and good luck with that drive to Sydney.
Great. Thanks, Chris.